That's beautiful. All right, we're going to take and epoxy these hinges in on this flap assembly. We've gone ahead and we've got the holes drilled in there. And this particular one has, it's a Reliant, Top-Flite Reliant, so it has a bit of camber to the wings, so you'll notice how the hinges don't seem to be in line, but in midair they are in line. So that's why that looks that way. Here's the hinges I'm going to use, is standard hinge, a Robart giant scale. And then I've got some Burt's Bees lip balm. That joint area, the hinge point, I actually cover with lip balm just very carefully and then flip it the other way and fill all the cracks. And that way no epoxy will get stuck into that joint. I also will go ahead and set aside a bunch of these shop towels. Now I buy shop towels like that, and then I'll take and cut them in quarters. And then I lay them out, you know, like you're laying out cards to deal. And what that does is it makes it so you can just pick up the end towel and go ahead and use it. So the big thing is prep. Latex gloves, get everything ready, mark your cups for amounts, denatured alcohol right there, and get everything ready before you go ahead and do epoxy, because you're going to need to clean up around the wing, around the hinge, and so on, and you don't want to have to scramble to try and find that after the fact. All right, here's a pin hinge, and you'll see in the center area here where the pin is, you know, it necks out, it angles out, so it gets a little bit bigger. So what happens is you put it into a hole, and it gets held up about right there because the diameter's not big enough. Well, kind of a little trick that I've found, they'll take something called a unibit. Now these are available all over the place, any home improvement stores, you can find them online. The name brand is Unibit. I believe Irwin is the company for that. And if you just put this in here a little bit and just spin it just a little bit up to that next notch. Now notice I'm not having this in an electric drill, because I tried that, and then all of a sudden you get a, oh no, because it just goes in a little bit too far. So you just want to go in that one notch more, and then allows that pin hinge to go in there all the way and seat in properly. All right, I got my epoxy mixed up. Here's this little rod. So we'll put a little on there. You can see we'll just kind of roll it a little bit. We'll just put it in there in the hole, and we'll roll it as we put it in and out. You can see that just sucks that epoxy right in the hole. And we'll just repeat this throughout the whole thing, and we'll be all set. All right, next you're going to want to just get just a little bit of epoxy on the end of that hinge. You don't need to have a ton. You just want to have just enough, and you can get it in this hole. Now more epoxy is going to come around that hole, and you just wiggle that in, and you can wipe off the excess later. Now just use the same rod and just go around here, put a little bit on each one. Make sure there's not too much, just enough to bond it. That's all you got to have. When you're going for final assembly with these pin hinges, you want to make sure your control surface is on an angle. So when it's inserted for final assembly, that all of these pins are lined up in a straight line, so it's able to actuate. So of the utmost importance is making sure that whatever control surface that you're getting done, make sure you're getting things flat, you get your gap right, you get the hinge in the right place, you know it's going to function, and then we're going to tape it in place to make sure that it doesn't sink while it's drying or anything like that. And this is where you get your quality, is make sure you're very, very fussy about your alignment before you let that epoxy set up. All right, I've got the hinges all in there, and so I'm peeling off this tape. You want to get that done before the epoxy dries. I'm going to get rid of this epoxy that's around there. I'm going to go through a lot of rags because you don't want to wipe the epoxy you just wiped off of one area onto another area. So just go through rags, like one per hinge, and then you want a final wipe after that's all done to just make really, really sure you got all the epoxy and epoxy film off of the wing. So here's the finished product. Glue's all set up. You can see, everything's all wiped off, clean. And And those hinges just seem to go right into oblivion just the way you want. And of course it just functions without any catches or anything like that. And that is what you want. If you're fussy, that's the way your flaps and ailerons should work.